Yes, yes, from the Northwest. Uh, so I'm just gonna make this very quick. I'm gonna make it very quick because I'm taking a quick break. I had a lot of people message me after I posted on Instagram talking about Jenny Slate and Kristen Bell with regards to them stepping down from shows that they were doing. They were voicing black characters uh, on these TV shows, and they both are leaving the shows, uh, expressing that they feel the voices should be done by black black people. I think one of the things that a lot of people have been missing with this situation is, at least with when it comes to Central Park. Central Park is a series on Apple TV. It was done by the people who do the show Bob's Burgers, same animation style. And when I first watched the show, my first thought was it's very interesting that Kristen Bell is doing the voice of this young black girl, and Titus Burgess is doing the voice of the young black boy. Neither of them are biracial, so I was just like, oh, okay. I guess, if you're going to have one biracial kid be played by a black person and one biracial kid be played by a white person, I'm not against it. That's fine. Um, then I looked at the rest of the cast for the show. Daveed Diggs is doing the voice of a white woman. Stanley Tucci is doing the voice of a white woman. And I looked at the cast for Central Park, and I was just like, okay, I guess that's fine. If you're going to make a statement or an argument for diverse cast, you have, out of a predominant cast, the main cast, you have 6 people. 3 of them are white, 3 of them are black. And I didn't even think twice about it. And then people started saying, it's a little weird that Kristen Bell is doing the voice of the girl. And I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, again, Titus Burgess is black, and he's doing the voice of a biracial guy, young man. So I was just like, well, maybe. And then, Jenny Slate and Kristen Bell decided that they were going to step away from their shows, and I was just like, oh, okay, I guess so. And then I started seeing people really arguing, like, oh, well, are Stanley Tucci going to step away? Is Stanley Tucci going to leave the show because he's doing the voice of a white woman? And is Daveed Diggs going to step away because he's doing the voice of a white woman? And, we should only have. And then Jenny Slate's main statement was that on her show for Big Mouth, she was leaving the position because she believes that black characters should be voiced by black actors. So here's the thing. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I don't think you need it to be one for one. I think what the bigger issue is, and it hit me afterwards when I spoke to black women in a nerd group of mine, and I'm not speaking for black women. I'm speaking based on what information was given to me and what I received and what I learned and what I was able to learn in those interactions with those women. The issue predominantly for a show like Central Park is that as much as the cast has quote unquote diversity, there are no black women on the show. If your main cast it has a black woman in it or a black child in it, Molly Tillerman is the daughter that Kristen Bell does, and Kristen Bell is doing the voice of that character. And then Titus Burgess is doing Cole Tillerman, who's a black teen, and he's a black man. And Daveed Diggs is a black man doing Helen. And then Josh Gad is a white man doing Birdie, who is a white guy, possibly Mediterranean, based on his complexion in regards to the other characters. You can tell there's a difference between how he is colored and the tone of his skin versus the other characters on the show. Catherine Hahn is playing a white woman. Leslie Odom Jr. is playing a black man. Stanley Tucci is playing a white woman. There are no black women in that cast. That's the point that I think, if anything, Kristen Bell and Jenny Slate's departure should highlight. Cree Summer, Regina King, and Maya Rudolph can't be the only black voice actors in Hollywood. doing predominant voice work, I should say. They're not the only ones, but they do the main parts, the main voice acting that I've seen in my life have been those voice actors from black women, I should say. And I think that's the conversation that should come from this. Not the idea that Stanley Tucci as a white man, you know, because I've been seeing a lot of people saying like, oh, well, Stanley Tucci should step back and let an older white woman do the voice of an older white character. I don't think it, at least for me, it's not as simple as just like, oh, and that's one of the reasons that I think what Jenny Slate's statement that some people felt, oh, well, you know, yeah, I saw a video, the Ab and Preach video, where they say they're discussing white guilt and what comes along with it and the decision to step back for that reason. And I think that's possibly it, you know? But I think the thing that we should focus on now is trying to get black women more voice work. It shouldn't have to be that people step down before we realize that in the cast that there are no black women, especially if one of the animated lead characters is a black woman. Or you can say biracial. I know some people are making the argument for them being biracial. Again, I made the argument for it being biracial. I was just like, if you have a black male voice actor doing one biracial child and you have a white female doing the voice acting for a biracial child, I was just like, if you combine the two, you do have half. So there you go, you know. And that was me making an excuse, I guess, in my head, because I didn't even think twice. Like, oh, it's weird that they didn't get a black woman to do that voice, and why didn't they get a black woman to do that voice? And that's the thing that I think some of us need to recognize and discuss more and face that, because as a black man, I need to be better at recognizing the things that black women are dealing with or not being, and the representation they're not getting. You know, there's a lot of posts I've seen recently talking about the fact that black women are not being as supported by black men in the community. You know, when George Floyd passed, you know, black women were on the forefront of defending black men. Breonna Taylor has passed, and a lot of women were saying that black men are not doing as much about Breonna Taylor. We didn't do as many marches. We didn't. And I think that's a combination of we did. You know, people didn't see what happened to her, so their outrage is tempered by just not. They didn't see it. They didn't see what happened to Breonna Taylor. They saw the video of George. We've seen it. Or if you haven't seen it, you've heard about it. But with Breonna Taylor, it's easier to just say, oh, she was shot, and then to just ignore it. And that's the conversation that black men need to do more for black women. For every black man out there, there's a black mother. I have a black sister. I have black family. And the thought that someone walks in and takes a woman's life is sad enough. And then the fact that there's this kind of this erasure in the culture where you can just not have black female characters. You know, the voice is a blonde, blue-eyed white woman in Kristen Bell for that character, or Jenny Slate, who, you know, I get it. I understand. I understand people being upset. I understand the outrage. I understand people being concerned about it, but I don't understand people making the argument for Daveed Diggs to step down as the voice of Helen because he's a black man and she's a white woman, and you know we should give more. Yeah, there should be more women in the cast. I agree. If you're gonna have a cast that's out of the show, you have 3 white women, and you have 3 white women in the main cast depicted on the show Central Park. And in the main voice acting cast, you had 2 white women. One of the white women is doing the voice of another white woman. The other white woman, Kristen Bell, is doing the voice of a black character. So you on screen, you have the representation, but the voices that are the voices that give life to these characters is not represented. So Yeah, I mean that is a conversation. That's the conversation. There needs to be more visibility for women. There needs to be more visibility for black women. I think the first thing they could do is if they want to cast a show like this, fine. If you want to cast it this way, but you do have to recognize that there are no black women in your main cast, where one of your lead characters is a black woman, black teen going into to be a black woman, and that's an issue, and that's the conversation, and that's the thing that people need to address, and that's the thing that people will need to look into and acknowledge, and moving forward that we will have to work on. These are things that we have to work on because we're not doing it right now. I Cree Summer has been voicing black female characters almost on her own for as long as I've been watching cartoons. And we all just see it and accept it and never even thought twice about the fact that, like, you know, whenever they post the pictures of like your childhood was voiced by Cree Summer and Tara Strong. And I'm just like, hot damn. And I'm not mad that Cree Summer and Tara Strong are the most popular voice actors when it comes to, you know, child characters and whatnot. That's fine. But when we start going into these adult themed cartoons, is what I guess I would say. You know, these like dramas and primetime cartoons, I guess, would be the idea, where you have the story's not just kids running around or fantasy or fiction, fiction in the sense of like science fiction, you know, like Kids Next Door. You don't have secret organizations of children fighting, you know, with kind of MacGyvered equipment and these crazy fantasy toys and things to fight a war against adults. I'm talking about a show where the main theme of it is Central Park is someone hates Central Park so much that there is corruption in the mayoral office, and you have a journalist investigating that, and her husband that works in the park, his job is at risk. Sure, they made it pretty because people sing. People are singing and dancing and stuff like that, but the story behind Central Park is that if you strip all the singing and stuff away, you take all that stuff out, the story is about corruption in politics, and how it affects people and their lives, and the network of people who keep something sustainable and working, and how evil some people can be just out of bitterness. They just So sure, let's add a song to it and make it fun. But at the end of the day, we have to address the fact that, you know, this is the theme of this show is more serious, and the world that we live in does have problems, and the show is trying to depict those problems in a way that's easier to accept, but is still not giving a voice to black women. So yeah, that was it. That was most of what I wanted to say, because I realized in conversations with people that a lot of people didn't see that part of it. A lot of people have been saying like, oh, you know, this is such an easy and quick thing for them to do. They're not really, they're stepping back. Boo-hoo. They already have their money. Again, I don't necessarily agree with how Jenny Slate worded her departure. I don't think it's as simple as just every character should be voiced by a person that fits the description of the character. But I mean, that would probably be better. It'd probably give life to the characters in a way that the writing couldn't. But I don't think we need to do that. So, anyways, guys, I just really wanted to add that real quick, because I felt that it was something that I've been hearing a lot about, something I've been thinking a lot about it, because I like to pay attention to this stuff. I like to watch this stuff in the back end, and the reason it was so important to me was because I did have the initial thought when I was watching the show, when I had that initial thought about the representation of black women on the show, I quickly bypassed it because, again, when I looked at the cast, it was easy for me to say, oh, well, there are black men in the cast. And I recognize that bias in myself now because I should have acknowledged the fact that there were no black women in that cast. And I didn't see it. And that's something that black women have been saying about black men. And it might seem small, but to me, it means a lot when I realize that I didn't think of that. Because I like to usually try and think of every scenario. And the moment it hit me that I didn't think of that specific thing, it hit me because I was concerned that I didn't think of that. And how many other times have I not thought of that? And that's why these things are important. So I think one of the major parts of what we have to do now in our lives is whenever you have a thought, you have to address where that thought came from and also do your best to try and figure out what else, what am I missing with this situation? So when I see people debating this stuff, it hits me that, a lot of us aren't. There's a lot of debates online right now about Kristen Bell and Jenny Slate leaving those shows. Most of the black nerd groups that I'm in, a lot of the people are saying they love it, that they took this step. They're going to miss them as voice actors. They see what they're doing and they appreciate it. They recognize the allyship and they love that. But at the same time, some of them were feeling like, well, is it going to change something? They're going to bring in this black voice actor, hopefully. Hopefully, that's the other thing. Hopefully they bring in a black voice actor. I would hope that Central Park doesn't bring in a black male voice actor to voice this character of Molly. And in Big Mouth, when the character is changed, some people will be like, oh, the characters go through puberty, their voices will change anyways. This is a perfect opportunity. Yeah, the nature of that show works out perfectly that you could do that. But yeah, anyways, the whole process that we are all going through is one of reflection, and I think I'd like to think I'm doing better at that, and I hope to do better at that. And I wanted to speak on it because I want other people who may not think about it to see another perspective and then also be able to reflect on it. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine. As long as you were able to listen to what I had to say and you aren't upset. Or even if you are upset, why are you upset about what I said? These are the things. These are everything. This whole process is a new world of reflection for all of us. Anyways, I said I was going to take a short break. And then I came on, and it's been a short break. It's only been like 20 minutes. But yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. I see some of you jumped in and were watching, and I appreciate that. Oh, wow. It's kind of fun when you look away and you look back and see how many people have tuned in. But thank you to everyone who's tuned in. And if you guys have comments or thoughts or feelings about this whole thing and what it means and why it's important, feel free to DM me or get in the mentions on the comment on this video on Facebook or on Twitch or on YouTube. Thanks, guys. That's it. I leave you now with this wonderful piece by the always awesome and ever creative Wally, who has a new track out. He didn't. I'm just promoting it because I love his music. He didn't ask me to, but yeah, I think he should. You guys should check this out. He has a new track out, and his new project is. Well, actually, I'm gonna sign off with the song that I love, but you guys go check him out on Bandcamp. Wally, WAAHLI. .bandcamp.com. Okay, guys.